The research compound stood on the edge of Titan's methane sea, its steel walls glinting faintly beneath Saturn's pale light. To most, it was nothing more than a station devoted to atmosphere studies and mineral surveys. To the technicians inside, it was a cage. Not for them but for what they had captured. Kai Mercer had always hated the underground sector. His job was mundane. Maintenance checks on environmental controls, repairing drones, inspecting oxygen scrubbers. Yet whenever his rounds took him through the lowest levels of the compound, he felt an unseen weight pressing on his chest. The sound started as a whisper. He had thought it was the humming of the pipes, or a trick of his headset, until the whisper grew into something unmistakable. Screams. They weren't human screams, not quite. The pitch shifted unnaturally, echoing as though reverberating in another dimension. Still, they carried the same raw agony he recognized in wounded soldiers from the Mars wars. The screams always came at night when most personnel were asleep. The others ignored them. Some claimed not to hear. Others muttered that the noise came from seismic stress beneath Titan's crust. But Kai knew the sound of a living being in torment. On his 7th rotation, curiosity conquered fear. Following the sound through dim corridors, he found himself in an unmarked sector sealed by biometric locks. His clearance was low, yet for reasons he didn't understand, the door opened at his touch. Inside, the chamber was lined with reinforced glass. In the center, chained to a restraint rig, was the source of the screams. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin glowed faintly like moonstone, shifting colors with her breathing. Veins of light pulsed beneath the surface, illuminating her frail figure. Her hair shimmered like liquid mercury, cascading down her shoulders in tangled strands. Wide, luminous eyes stared up from a face both alien and heartbreakingly human. The alien girl was no older in form than 16 by human reckoning, and she was caged. When her eyes met his, the screaming stopped. The silence pressed against him harder than the sound ever had. Middle. Kai's discovery haunted him. He returned night after night, drawn by something deeper than curiosity. Each time, the girl reacted differently, sometimes shrinking back in fear, other times staring at him with cautious hope. Eventually, she began to speak, not in words but in thoughts that brushed the edges of his consciousness. "Help me." The voice wasn't external. It vibrated inside his skull, a trembling presence that felt both fragile and desperate. Kai struggled against the rules drilled into him as a technician. Interference with classified research was a punishable offense. Yet he couldn't ignore her. He began bringing scraps, water tablets, strips of thermal fabric from unused gear, nutrient packs smuggled from the canteen. Each time he passed them through the food slot, her luminous eyes followed his hands. She devoured the sustenance with an almost painful hunger. Through fragmented visions she shared in his mind, Kai pieced together fragments of her story. She had been captured in the outer Kuiper belt, taken from a shattered vessel drifting among the ice. The scientists here called her Specimen Theta. To them she was a subject, an opportunity to study alien biology, to extract data, to test limits. But to Kai she was a prisoner. Her true name was unpronounceable, but she taught him a symbol that carried meaning, Ilya. In her language, it meant light that resists the void. The bond deepened quickly. He could feel her emotions bleed into him. Terror, loneliness, pain, and above all, hope whenever he arrived. One night, alarms blared through the compound. Kai raced to his terminal, feigning ignorance. Rumors spread. The specimen had resisted an experiment, nearly shattering the reinforced chamber with a scream so powerful it cracked the glass. The scientists spoke of restraining her more tightly, of sedatives, of dissection if necessary. Kai's stomach churned. That night when he descended, Ilya's glow was faint. Her chains cut into her translucent skin, leaking threads of radiant fluid. Her voice in his mind was weaker. They will end me. Please. Kai stood trembling before the glass. He thought of protocol, of duty, of the risk of court-martial or execution. Yet the thought of abandoning her, of letting those luminous eyes dim forever, was unbearable. He made his choice. The escape. The plan required patience. For days, Kai studied guard patterns, memorized access codes from stolen glimpses, and carefully rerouted surveillance feeds. He smuggled in tools, a plasma cutter, an override chip, and a stolen clearance band. On the 12th night he moved. The corridors were quiet. Most personnel slept. Only a skeleton crew monitored the labs. Kai bypassed checkpoints, his heart pounding like a war drum. When he reached Ilya's chamber, she was already waiting, eyes glowing brighter with recognition. "Hold still," he whispered, though she needed no sound to hear him. The plasma cutter hissed, slicing through restraints. Sparks showered the floor, and with each severed chain Ilya's glow intensified. When the final shackle fell, she collapsed against him, trembling, barely able to stand. Her touch sent a shock through his body, not pain but an overwhelming flood of sensations. Gratitude, relief, and something warm that felt like trust. They fled together through dim corridors. But freedom was not so simple. An alarm shrieked as they crossed into the shuttle bay. The cameras had detected unauthorized presence despite his rerouting. Steel doors slammed shut, trapping them between armed security drones. "Stop!" a voice barked over the intercom. It was Dr. Havers, the lead xenobiologist. His voice dripped with both fury and fascination. "Mercer, step away from the specimen. Do you have any idea what you're doing? That creature is worth more than this entire station." Ilya's grip on Kai's hand tightened. Her voice pulsed in his mind. "Don't let them take me." The drones advanced, weapons primed. Kai made his decision in an instant. He shoved Ilya toward the shuttle access panel and spun to face the drones. He'd fought machines before on Mars. He knew their weaknesses. With a wrenching motion, he ripped a conduit from the wall, sparks flying. He jammed it into the floor plating just as the drones fired. Electricity arced wildly, shorting their circuits. The drones collapsed, smoking. Ilya stood at the shuttle controls, eyes glowing fiercely. She extended her hand toward the access panel, and to Kai's shock, the electronic lock melted into slag beneath her touch. She could manipulate energy itself. Together they entered the shuttle. The launch sequence roared. Explosions of gunfire echoed from pursuing guards, but the shuttle tore free, flames streaking against Titan's thick haze. Kai gripped the controls, teeth clenched, as the compound shrank beneath them. They were free. Climax. Freedom, however, was fragile. The compound dispatched interceptors, sleek pursuit craft armed with plasma cannons. They streaked toward the fleeing shuttle, firing bursts of energy that rattled its hull. Kai wrestled with the controls. "We won't outrun them." Ilya staggered to the viewport, her glow intensifying until the cabin filled with radiant light. Her voice thundered in his mind, "Trust me."